Why deer control is even needed in Australia. Deer aren't native to this continent. They were brought here in the 19th century by enthusiastic Europeans who thought, hey, you know what this hot, dry country needs? Big game animals from Europe and Asia. And just like that, deer species like fallow, red, somber, rusa, hog, cheetal, and axis deer were introduced for hunting and ornamental purposes. Fast forward to today and guess what? They're out of control. Currently, deer are classified as pest animals in several Australian states. Why? Because they cause absolute chaos. They destroy native vegetation by overgrazing, compact the soil with their heavy hooves, spread weeds by carrying seeds in their poop, and trample delicate ecosystems like a toddler in a Lego store. They've even been caught on CCTV fighting for parking spots. Okay, that last bit is a stretch, but you get the point. And then there's the agricultural damage. Farmers aren't cheering when they see a deer leaping across their paddocks. These guys eat crops, break fences, and spread diseases that can affect livestock. Some farmers say they've seen more deer than cows on their own land. That's not good for business. It's like inviting someone over for dinner and they eat your fridge. But the damage doesn't stop on land. Deer are also a danger on the roads. They often dart out in front of cars, causing serious accidents. Ever had a deer jump out in front of you at 100 km/h? It's like a horror movie called Fast and Furious. So, what does the government do about it? Surely they don't hand out wanted, dead or alive posters for deer, right? Well, kind of. Deer control in Australia is serious business. The government, in partnership with conservation agencies, farmers, indigenous rangers, and even volunteers, uses a mix of techniques. And trust me, some of these sound like scenes from a tactical video game. One of the most high-tech methods is thermal-assisted aerial shooting. Yes, that's right, shooting deer from helicopters with thermal scopes. It sounds like a military operation because it pretty much is. Trained marksmen fly over dense forests in helicopters, scanning the landscape using thermal imaging to locate deer hiding under the trees. It's like a Call of Duty mission but with kangaroos watching from the sidelines. These marksmen use silenced rifles and move swiftly. The operation is done under strict guidelines to ensure quick and humane kills, usually targeting groups of deer in areas where ground access is nearly impossible. It's efficient, effective, and a little bit James Bond if you ask me. Then we have the ground-based volunteer shooters, aka the bush ninjas. These are experienced hunters, often working in pairs or small teams, who trek into the wilderness with all their gear, camouflage clothing, high-powered rifles, scopes, and sometimes night vision. Their mission? To locate, identify, and humanely dispatch deer in targeted regions. But these aren't your average weekend campers. Many of them go through training programs, work with parks and wildlife services, and log every animal taken down for reporting. Some of them even use scent-masking sprays to hide their smell. One guy reportedly used kangaroo poo cologne. That's commitment. Now what happens to the deer once they're shot? Great question. Some of the deer are processed for meat, depending on the condition of the animal and the location. The meat can be donated, sold commercially, or given to local communities. In some remote areas, indigenous ranger groups are involved, and the venison is shared as a valuable food resource. Think of it as bush-to-plate cuisine. In other cases, especially in remote or inaccessible zones, the carcasses are left in the wild to decompose naturally. While this might sound wasteful, it actually plays a role in the ecosystem. Scavengers like eagles, devils, and dingoes benefit from the sudden buffet. But like with everything in Australia, not everyone agrees on how to handle the deer issue. Some folks argue that deer are part of the Australian landscape now and culling is cruel. Others say more humane alternatives should be explored, like deer birth control. Imagine trying to sneak up on a deer with a packet of contraceptives. That's a skit waiting to happen. Animal rights groups are also vocal. They demand transparency and accountability in all control operations. Some groups have proposed relocation programs. But moving hundreds of wild deer isn't as simple as calling an Uber XL. It's logistically tough, wildly expensive, and risky to native habitats elsewhere. Then there are the deer lovers. Yes, there's a club for everything. They argue that controlled hunting licenses should be expanded, allowing private hunters to manage deer populations while getting some tasty venison in return. This works in some areas, especially on private land. But again, it doesn't solve the entire problem. The government, trying to balance ecological protection, animal welfare, and public safety, has rolled out state-specific strategies. In Victoria and New South Wales, for example, they have large-scale deer management programs involving aerial shooting, community education, and long-term monitoring. Meanwhile, in Tasmania, where deer populations are also growing, the debate continues on how to handle wild deer without upsetting farmers, hunters, or conservationists. It's like hosting a barbecue where everyone wants different kinds of sausages and no one brought plates. All jokes aside, the real reason this is important is because deer pose a significant threat to Australia's biodiversity. Many native plant species, already fragile due to climate change and past land clearing, simply can't survive constant deer trampling and grazing. And when native plants vanish, so do the insects, birds, and small animals that depend on them. Some scientists even believe that if deer populations aren't controlled, certain protected national parks could lose their ecological value. And when national parks start looking like livestock paddocks, tourism suffers too. So where do we go from here? Well, a combination of solutions seems to be the way forward. Technology, trained volunteers, government funding, community education, and indigenous knowledge are all part of the big plan. There's even talk of using drones in the future to locate deer herds with pinpoint accuracy. Imagine being a deer and seeing a drone float by with a GoPro. Smile, you're on venison vision. But let's end on a hopeful note. Across Australia, people are coming together, farmers, rangers, scientists, even city folk, to deal with this growing issue. And while deer might be cute in cartoons, here in the wild heart of Australia, they're being taken very seriously.